The Mirror Universe is home to several threats to the Federation. Most notorious is the Terran Empire, a dark twisted version of the Federation built on conquest and subjugation. That empire fell in the early 24th century, however, to the rising Klingon-Cardassian alliance, and may or may not rise again depending on what proves canon to the shows. In the Mirror Universe, we have seen twists on organisations and people. However, it's not always as simple as mere opposites. Just because one force is good in the Prime timeline does not make it evil in the Mirror Universe. And, in the case of today's video, unfortunately just because an entity is evil in the Prime timeline does not make it good in the Mirror. If anything, sometimes the enemy is darker still, as is the case with the Borg. The Borg of the Mirror Universe are not encountered in canon, however they are explored in Apocrypha extensively in several areas. What might make a good starting point is to assume that the Borg of the Terran universe had the same start as their Prime counterparts, but as that too is shrouded in history, it's a bit of a moot point. But as a common frame of reference, we can assume that their path followed much the same thing until a point of divergence. I've already explored the depiction of the Mirror Universe Catherine Janeway, who was basically a ranking officer in the Terran Empire before becoming essentially a Delta Quadrant pirate queen. And she certainly had her run-ins with the Borg, even reverse engineering their assimilation technology for her own gain, to make minions in her own hive mind for those troublesome days where betrayal was rife. But there are some key differences. First off, let's get them their proper moniker. The Borg were ruled over by a king, not a queen, in the Mirror Universe, and referred to themselves as the Borg Kingdom. The Mirror Universe Borg still utilise assimilation to grow their hive mind and expand through bringing other species into their collective consciousness, and for the majority of their victims, this would be the outcome. However, the Kingdom was more ready to preserve a large measure of individuality beyond the overriding commands of the collective. This allowed certain key Kingdom drones the ability to utilise the traits of particular individuals over a swath of drones, rather than disseminating it among the hive mind. This has the advantage of allowing something more akin to a chain of command, with a cube's leader still being able to make command decisions outside of the collective's reach. The Borg Collective was seen to do this in a very mild sense with Locutus, for example, but all he was in reality was a slave to the Queen's will. Picard, the man, was a helpless observer. While those commanders within the Kingdom are undoubtedly bound to the hive mind and forced into assimilated loyalty, they retain features of use. Keen insight, a tactical mind, that sort of thing would lead to a strategist being created. And what's more, the Borg was pretty much an individual referring to itself with I and using a name. This degree of individuality allowed for faster and more responsive combat tactics. The Collective's greatest asset was also its most exploitable weakness, that they were bound to the Queen. While complex and near instantaneous, the Queen could not track every cube all the time. While vessels under her direct control were more dangerous, your run-of-the-mill cube would operate on a set standard of parameters. A Kingdom cube had no such guarantees. In terms of how they act, the Mirror Borg are generally more aggressive and less reserved in the application of their strength, more ready to turn to violence first, for example. If a Prime Universe Borg finds a target, it will weigh the cost of destruction or assimilation against the resources expended, and if it finds a negative result, it will ignore them. This has led the Borg to make decisions such as not assimilating the Kazon because they have nothing to gain, and feel that the effort expended would result in a net negative for the collective. It also leads to the questionable decision to ignore active intruders unless those intruders prove to be a problem. The Mirror Borg see things in a simpler form. All intruders are destroyed if capable, while everyone encountered is killed or assimilated as opportunity presents. Again, the word for these Kingdom Borg is simply more aggressive. They are more ready to destroy a resistance than assimilate it, and their tactical actions mirror this. It is more common to see these Borg target priority individuals for assimilation and merely take out the rest. Although the Borg Collective has done the same thing, it tends to take them longer to get to that position of destruction over assimilation. The Collective only turned to destroying the Federation through time travel when they made the choice that the UFP was causing too much trouble, so they settled for assimilating their primitive 21st century Earth just to remove them from the playing field. See Star Trek First Contact. The Borg Kingdom best exemplifies this with their warning. Instead of the threat of assimilation and the rebuttal that resistance is futile, the Borg Kingdom suggests submission for assimilation or facing destruction. Sure, the results are the same, but the differences in motivation are subtle. But there. The goal of seeking perfection seems almost secondary to the Kingdom, or if it is, they have a very different view of things. This has led the Borg Kingdom to be more combative and proactive in facing other powers, while the Collective is more content to grow and thread its way out from the Delta Quadrant like a transwarp spiderweb. The Borg Kingdom was also heavily influenced by the surrounding powers, which were generally more dangerous too, such as the Terran Empire and Cardassian-Klingon alliance. This compounds their aggressive tendencies, bringing them into frequent combat with such powers. Their technology also included sizable Klingon, Federation and even Dominion finds, which incorporated into their arsenal. They possessed transphasic weaponry, and the Kingdom had even made it as far as Ingame 3, which in the Prime timeline was in UFP space, although not a member world. The Kingdom had assimilated a large percentage of its military personnel. This granted the Borg drones the ability to organically hide their life signs, so that they could move undetected, and when combined with scattering fields, it made ground combat even more dangerous. Their drones too were not uniform, and while the Collective created different drones for repair, surgery, scouting and so on, the Kingdom's forces were more combat-oriented. There were drones that had the sole purpose of carrying vinculums that could enhance the regenerative capabilities of other drones, who would deliberately overload themselves to create a blast radius. Their drones were also more heavily armoured and incorporated energy weapons. Their cubes too were more powerful than the Collective's ones, and they had more efficient regenerative capabilities, and smaller starships, such as their spheres, were known to engage collisions when critically damaged rather than attempt to salvage a situation and persist. Some even measured over triple the size of your standard Borg cube, which is exactly 3 kilometers wide. Now, there are several slight variations on the Mirror Borg, but the commonality is the more aggressive and brutal tactics, as well as the focus on warfare alongside assimilation. One feature noted, however, is that the Borg of the Mirror Universe were less restricted by their implants and moved with more grace, which is not hard. This is to the extreme in the Worst of Both Worlds novel, which sees them even evading incoming fire. This continuity also saw the Kingdom raise through Cardassian-Klingon alliance space, and it assimilated Dr. Soong into their version of Locutus. The Alpha Quadrant's encounters with the Borg Kingdom also mirrors the time frame of the Prime Universe Collective, with the El-Orians falling to the Borg and some tech being discovered later down the line, but nothing concrete. Annika Hansen lost her parents to the Borg while they were chasing up rumours. However, she escaped unscathed and unassimilated, leaving a trail that Mirror Janeway could follow. The first major contact was the aforementioned attack on Cardassian territory, which in the Mirror Universe claimed much of the former Imperial space in 2371, 6 years later than in the Prime Universe. Overall, these Borg have a terrifying take on the collective, because they actually eased up on the whole one mind thing. Sure, there is a hive mind that rules joint decisions and the like, but they've adapted to become far more tactical and grant a degree of individuality to their command structure. This has led them to become far more aggressive, proactive, and, well, adaptable to battle, as well as their zero tolerance for being studied themselves. Boarding parties are annihilated, trespassers do not leave, and the only option is to submit or be forced to. By lessening the grip on the collective, they've actually taken a leaf from the Federation's playbook and preserved the uniqueness of a species to their benefit in select places, instead of disseminating it among the whole. Whereas the collective adds your distinctiveness to their own, the Kingdom bends it to their use. The Borg Kingdom, at least with how it is presented in the books and in Star Trek Online, is a greater danger than the collective by far, but ultimately does have its weaknesses. It is less of an unstoppable, non-negotiable force of nature than its prime counterpart, and I would say that although more dangerous, that makes them slightly less terrifying. Thanks for watching this breakdown on the Borg Kingdom. As mentioned a lot, this is non-canonical, but makes for a great premise. So I've been Rick. Thanks again, and until the next one, goodbye.